What's up, guys? Thank you for watching Catching Up with the Nelson. We back. If you haven't yet and you're new to our channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification button. Let's get into the video.
What's up, guys? It's your
What it
girl,
do?
Lily.
We back.
You guys,
In a minute.
so much to tell you and to get off my chest, and yeah, it's just so much. What y'all been up to? A lot of
nothing.
a lot of almost dying.
A lot of dying.
Okay,
Almost
so
dying.
jumping straight into it, you guys. I have been wanting to make this video, and it's been a few weeks, but I just want to make sure that my energy level was at a good place now, and I feel so much better. But I actually had COVID, you guys. And at first, I'm not saying that I wasn't a believer of it, because I've always believed that it was out there, you know, especially people that I know that have had family that passed away from it. I think of where to start from all this madness when it all started. So basically my grandparents flew in a couple weeks ago. Well, I think the last week of April for my dad's birthday, April 26th. So that day that they flew in, it was a Tuesday. And Stefan and I actually had our appointments to get our first, we got our first round of Moderna, our COVID shot. And we felt great, you know, immediately your arm gets sore, but that's normal. And that was it. Like, other than that, I didn't feel anything. Did you feel?
Was fine.
You know,
I was fine. I didn't feel anything except for
Yeah.
my arm being sore. I was a little fatigued, but not that much. But just a little bit. My arm was sore, but that's pretty much about it.
Yeah.
So.
And I didn't feel anything. I just felt, you know, I mean, I feel fatigued all the time anyway because I have thyroid issues. So then that day, my grandparents flew in. You know, they tested negative the day before they flew here. So we knew that they were not positive at that moment. We don't know if between then and actually flying here and getting here from the airport
to whenever.
You know, just because they're older and they're not like us where we're as attentive and like make sure we pump hand sanitizer every time we touch something you're not supposed to, everybody's touching. You know, they don't really
believe in it.
It's not that they don't believe, it's more like they don't really are aware as we are.
There you go.
And so, you know, a few days after that same day, like I said, we got our shots. I went to go see them. Stefan did not go. He stayed home. So I went to go see them. And, you know, we kissed, we hugged, we chit-chatted. And so following a few days after that, my grandparents first started where my grandmother wasn't feeling good. And my mom wasn't feeling good. So they thought, oh no, like, let's go get tested just in case. Because in this time frame we're in, it's like anything you feel, you think, oh crap, is it COVID?
Right.
So they went and got tested, and they were all positive. My mother, my grandmother, my grandfather, my aunt, and my dad.
It was like what? Like 8 people end up getting it.
Yeah, my uncle, my aunt, and my uncle, his wife, and one of their kids. So it was 8 of them. And so then they kind of we have a family group, and they were kind of like, okay, guys, we all tested positive. We've been around grandma. I think everyone should go get tested. So that day, the next day, then when that happened, I told Stefan I wasn't feeling well. Like, I just kept feeling kind of achy, like body aches. But they were real minor, nothing major. And so I was like, I know.
Probably anxiety knowing that they had tested positive. You've been around them. So, you know, it's probably just anxiety. So that's when we just got the kids. We all 4 jumped in the car and we go get tested. You know, we gave a speech to the kids about how it's going to hurt a little bit. They're going to stick it up their nose, but the girls took it like a champ. They took it like a champ. And
we took them to get ice cream after.
Yeah, we took them to get ice cream after. They were trying to get ice cream, a toy, and all kind of things. But
they wanted the biggest reward.
Right, ice cream was good enough. But yeah, we all 4 got tested. 3 days later,
and it was negative at that point.
Yeah, we was all negative at that point. Then, you know, we came home, and continue with, you know, the everyday life. But no.
And then after that, so just to tell you guys real quick, we also at that time, unfortunately, everything hit us. It was such a bad time. But Stefan's nephew committed suicide. And so we were dealing with that and dealing with the funeral, the wake. And so...
sorry to cut you off. Yeah, my nephew committed suicide. And, mental illness is a big thing. You know, you have any loved ones, any family, friends, anybody that's going through something like that, a distant that you probably haven't heard from in a couple of weeks or days, you know, reach out to them and see how they doing, because I had just saw my nephew about a week ago before that happened. I didn't really speak to him, but wish I would have did it, but, you know, rest in heaven. But we went to the funeral. Wifey, even though she wasn't feeling as good, she still came to support me and my family. We ended up leaving a little bit early because she wasn't feeling good, but that's why we're here today, to let you know that she was COVID positive. So.
Yeah. And so, yes, I was at her funeral. I didn't know, but I had my mask on. We all had our masks on. We weren't in anyone's face. We kind of distanced each other from everybody.
Had us 6 feet apart.
Yeah. And so, so that day of the funeral, I woke up and I had severe body aches. And I took ibuprofen and they kind of went away. So later that night, when we came back home from the funeral, I told Stefan that my body was aching again, but it was like more, like it was kind of intense. And so I took some more ibuprofen. I went to sleep super early. I think it was like, what, like 8 o'clock when I went to sleep? I was so tired. So, and you know, in our head, we're thinking, I know my boss had told me, you know, you're going to have some side effects from the shot, fatigue, you know, weakness, you know, flu-like symptoms a little bit, if at that the most, and that's it. So I was just thinking, well, maybe it's the shot. But then, you know, I never thought about it. Well, I've had the shot 3 days, 4 days prior. I shouldn't be feeling side effects now, this late into it. So anyway,
Friday morning.
So Friday morning, I was supposed to go back to work from taking off from the funeral in the wake. And so Friday I wake up and I told Stefan, I was like, you know what? I don't feel well. Something's wrong. I was like, I feel like I got hit by a bus. My chest feels tight. Like, I don't feel right. And so he's like, well, let's go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor. He dropped me off because, you know, they don't let anyone go in with you. I went in, they tested me, and unfortunately they told me I had COVID. And it was horrible because I just wanted to bawl my eyes out, because you never think, you know, even though we're still trying to maintain some type of normality through this whole thing, like, you never really picture you being the one to be like, dang, I have COVID. And to some people, they have no symptoms, and to other people, you know, they died. Their body just couldn't keep up with it, you know. And
God was watching over us.
Yes, because and so it's just, I came home. I went straight to quarantine. They told me there was nothing they could do for me.
I was like, no, stay at the hospital. Stay at the hospital.
Angry.
They're going to take care of you. Just let them keep you at the hospital
but
as
they
long
wouldn't
as possible.
keep me because they thought that, you know, they listened to my lungs, whatever. They took my temp. I had a little bit of a temperature at that point, which at that point, I didn't even realize I was having a fever. And so, because all I kept thinking about was, oh my God, I have COVID. Oh my God, I
still
have
can't
COVID.
believe they sent you home. I can't believe they do people like that.
So I came home, I quarantined in my room, you know, and let me tell you guys, just like Stefan just mentioned about mental health illness, like, I suffer from severe anxiety. I choose to not medicate myself for it because I can see what it can do to people, and I just don't want to be that person for my kids. I believe in God, and I feel like if I can work my way through it, so far I have, and I'm going to continue to do that with my support system. And not everybody's story is the same, but, you know, for me, this is what's happening. And so I believe that, you know, once I had kids, I had postpartum depression, and it's not all the time, you know, but I think you go through certain waves in your life where it gets to the point where it's really bad, and then points where you can manage it. I think when that happened to me with COVID and being in my room and not talking to anyone and being alone and not feeling good, like, it takes a mental toll on you. It really, really does. And I don't even know what I was gonna say now. And it just makes me so emotional. I'm trying not to cry because it was really bad. On top of, like I said, dealing with Stefan's situation, I feel like I felt guilty because I didn't get to give him time to mourn over what he was going through. He was too busy worrying about me.
There was a lot going on at that time.
It was. And, you know, the girls had to obviously stop going to school. They were doing school from home. Stefan had to make sure both of them were on there, like, going back and forth just as a single parent, practically. So I know that was hard and stressful.
God was with us. God was with me, so it was all good.
And so basically forwarding a couple days into COVID, maybe like 6 days in, I told Stefan, he would come into my room very, very fast with his mask and his gloves on just to give me food or whatever.
Spraying Lysol everywhere.
He would Lysol me down every day, you guys. I think I'm going to have cancer at the end of this.
$80 on Lysol. It's been like $80 on Lysol.
He was buying Lysol cans like gallons of milk.
I know them Lysol cans are not cheap.
And I finally woke up that day and I told Stefan, I have the most intense, like shooting, stabbing pain in my chest and in my back, like my upper back. And I was like, no matter how I lay, no matter what I took, ibuprofen, Tylenol, Dayquil, NyQuil, nothing was helping me. Nothing was giving me relief. And Stefan was making me teas, and I would drink the teas, and I'm like, no, I just don't feel better. I feel worse. And then I started this little cough, which, taking it back a few months prior, I actually had bronchitis. Don't even know how I got that. So I don't think my body was actually fully recovered from that, because it started flaring up, that cough that I had when I had bronchitis. And so then I was like, okay, I think I should go to the hospital. I don't feel better. I feel worse. And so I had to drive myself, because I wasn't going to put Stefan at risk, because then I put my kids at risk. And at that point, I was like, we have been blessed enough that they haven't gotten it. So crying my little heart out, I drove myself to the hospital.
Ooh, I was going through it, guys. I was crying, walking. I called my mama crying. I thought my wife was going to check out, but
oh my God, it was horrible.
It was a lie. It was horrible. I was crying. So, yeah. But she drove herself to the hospital. She took care of herself well. I did what I could, so she went back to get checked. When you went the second time?
So when I went again to the hospital, this is the second. The first time was when they tested me. They said I responded. They had to let me go because they said, I just have to battle it at home. That so far I have no severe symptoms. So when I went back, they immediately hooked me up to IVs. I was severely dehydrated because I wasn't really drinking water because I was sleeping so much. I really was just trying to sleep it off. And honestly, I felt so fatigued and so tired, and the headaches, that I would just sleep all day. And so they were like, you're severely dehydrated. They listened to my lungs. They did a CT scan of my lungs, and the doctor came back in and he was like, I'm sorry, but you have pneumonia in both of your lungs. And then immediately my heart dropped, because all I could think about was the people that are dying are the people that are getting COVID, and then it turns into severe pneumonia, and then that's when they get put on a ventilator, and some of them don't come back and they die. All I could think about was my kids, you guys, and my husband.
I think at that time I had even called my pops, because my pops had COVID about a month or two before,
and he was almost on a ventilator.
Yeah, he was almost on a ventilator. He wasn't doing that good. I called him trying to get some advice, get some tips on what they tell him, what he took, how it happened, how long he took it, things like that. Man, I was ready to go.
I think it puts you in a dark place, and people don't realize that, especially when you care for someone so much. And I've been with Stefan for so long. Like, we know each other like
the back of my hand.
Yeah,
hey,
it's just and I don't know. It was I told him, I said, okay, so what do I do? Like, what's gonna happen to me? So at that point, you guys, he told me that it's barely there. It's there in both of my lungs, but it just started. And so we caught it early. They started IV treatment, fluid, like antibiotics. And I don't know the word because I cannot pronounce it, but there is this new, kind of like so basically at that point, they started IV treatment for antibiotics. Sorry guys, I'm trying to get comfortable. And so then they told me, once that dose kind of went in, they asked me if I had any medical conditions, blah, blah, blah. The only thing I have is hypothyroidism, which is not nothing like life-threatening. So I didn't qualify for, I had to Google it, you guys, because I cannot pronounce this. It's the monoclonal, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Monoclonal antibody treatment. It's like a IV infusion that has antibodies to help you fight COVID. And it's new, but they have released it to people because basically they see that it's working for people, to help them fight COVID, but you have to start it early on when you have COVID.
Right.
And they said that the only way I would qualify is if I had like blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol. You guys, by the grace of God, I've never been so happy to be fat in my life. Not that I'm like huge or anything, you know, right. Sorry if I offend anybody, but for my age, my size, I have gained a lot of weight too, thanks to COVID. But I am overweight for my age and for my height. And they said because I am obese, or considered, that's what the medical, you know, because I was considered obese, I qualified for that. So I was like, okay, what do I do? Like, is it going to make me feel better immediately? Like, how's this going to work? They said, you won't feel better immediately. It takes a few days to kind of kick in. But you guys, when they started that IV, I had a major panic attack. I think this is the worst panic attack I think I've ever had in my life, from when I was a kid to now, 28 years old. They had to medicate me. They had to put IV Benadryl and IV lorazepam, which is a controlled substance for anxiety. It knocked me out like this. The moment it went in, I was out like a light. And I think it was the best nap I ever took in my life too, to be honest. But when I woke up, I felt better emotionally. You know, mentally, I was still like kind of groggy. I didn't know what was going on. And so I woke up and they told me that the IV was done. I slept through the whole thing when they were putting the IV in me. And they told me that they're just going to monitor me for a couple more hours. So I didn't get to go home till what? Like maybe the next day at...
I think you came home that same day, but it was late.
It was late. It was like midnight.
That time your mom came up there. They let your mom come that time.
Yeah. Because my anxiety was so bad and my mental just kind of went haywire. They let my mom come. And she took me home and she dropped me off, and they sent me home just with one more round of oral antibiotics for my pneumonia. And he told me that because we caught it early and we started the IV treatment, that I should be okay at home. If I feel any little thing that doesn't feel right, to come back. So I came home. I didn't feel the symptoms of COVID anymore, but mentally and physically, I had zero energy, zero. I moped around in my room. I was going freaking nuts. And the next day after that, so 2 days after getting released, I started feeling this horrible pain in like my center of my stomach. And I was like, I couldn't eat. So I didn't eat for like 2-3 days. I lost 8 pounds.
Yeah.
I was vomiting. I was nauseated. I kept getting super bad headaches. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I don't feel the stabbing pains and I don't have fevers anymore. I finally broke the fevers. Like, he told me I feel better. I'm back to feeling bad, but in another way, in other forms. And so he called, luckily the doctor called me that day and he said, you know, how are you doing? I let him know what's going on, blah, 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 blah. He said, okay, no, come back in. So here I go again, you guys, back to the hospital. Again, my heart is full. I'm bawling. It's like, what else? I'm so scared. At this point, I want to close the book. I want it to end. I want it to not, I don't want to go through that anymore. And so I go back. They told me basically I was just having horrible, I guess like,
panic attack?
No, I guess, yeah, my anxiety wasn't helping, but it was like almost like severe heartburn. Not heartburn, but it was something to do with my intestines because I hadn't been eating and because I was so dehydrated once again, and it was a whole thing. So then they put more IVs in me, got me all electrolyted up, and then they sent me home a few hours after that again. I was like, please, I don't want to come back. I kept telling her, stay at
the hospital. Do not let them send you home.
But they kept releasing me. And you know, their dog...
3 times they sent her home. In a 10-day span, she went to the hospital 3 times, and she was positive with COVID, and they just kept sending her home. Oh, let's give you some IV and go home. Let's give you some antibodies to go home. I'm like, just keep her there. Why you have to send her home? Just keep her. But I guess that's the way it goes because there's nothing really they can do, right? They're doing all they can do.
I guess. It was horrible. And then just sitting in a hospital room by yourself.
Good thing you got the vaccine, even though it wasn't fully in effect. But I'm pretty sure that vaccine helped you out somewhat.
It did.
Pretty sure it would.
Yeah, it did. And my parents and them had just gotten vaccinated actually like a week. They got the Johnson & Johnson, which is just one dose. But they got it like a week and a half before, because it takes 2 weeks to build immunity. And
it's only 93%, I think.
Yeah, and
like
so
that.
they had just gotten the vaccine like a week and a couple of days. And so it wasn't full in effect. But with my parents and my grandparents, y'all, they were all fine. They had like minimal to none of side effects. Like my mom probably had a headache, she felt fatigued one day. My dad felt fatigued. My grandmother just felt fatigued. My grandfather had no symptoms the entire time. Like he was I'm fine. He was like, I'm fine. I don't know what you guys are talking about. You know, he doesn't believe in medicine, and he's more like, I'm okay, put a Band-Aid on it, I'll be all right. But he was fine. He had no symptoms. So I was the only one that took it really bad, you know, really bad. And I think what didn't help my case was that, like I said, I had bronchitis a few months prior. Then a few weeks prior to that, I had a really bad stomach virus, food poisoning. And so we think my immune system was just
weak.
It was out of there, and it just didn't have, it didn't have enough time to regroup itself, you know? And now I'm fine. I feel good. I'm still always tired. The 8 pounds that I lost, I've gained 5 of them back, because I've just been eating so uncontrollably, because I didn't eat for like 3 or 4 days at all, nothing. And I feel like I've built myself such an appetite now. But also, like, just mentally, I think I still battle with it every day. I think about it. It scares me. I know I have to move forward for my kids, for myself, for my husband, for my family. But mental illness, you guys, is so real. And take it serious. And if you ever feel like you need help, even the last person on earth that you would think you would want to reach out to somebody. Let somebody know. Let somebody know. Somebody does care about you.
Everybody needs help, and everybody needs a shoulder to lean on at times. You know, we all go through things. So, you know, like I said, mental illness is very serious. I experienced it at firsthand. And my wife used to always tell me she had it. I'm like, it's a mind thing. It's a mind thing. You know, 'cause where I grew up at and where I come from, we don't bring light to mental illness or anything like that. My wife used to always tell me about it. You know, all those football players, they banging their heads against each other, and they crazy, this and this. But with my nephew, it was very serious. So, yeah.
Yes, you guys. And
so what, you had COVID for what, 11 days?
11 days. They were the most long,
I was sleeping on the couch.
Horrible days of my life.
Ooh, it was tough sleeping on the couch. Just, you know, my wife just wasn't doing good. So, you know, I was just sitting here praying. You know, try to stay positive.
But we're okay now, and I'm okay, and I beat COVID.
We beat COVID.
And and my husband never got it. My kids never got it, you guys. I don't know how, but by the grace of God, because, you know, I'm all over my husband, and we sleep together, and
that's crazy because we were just sleeping in the bed, making babies and stuff like that, and I didn't get it.
And the girls, so, you know, I'd be all over them. I'd be kissing Pay, my little baby, my little mini one. She's such a mommy's baby still.
Black don't crack.
It's crazy. But like I said, I think I would have been okay if I hadn't have gone through those things prior, where my immunity system was just, you know. But with that being said, guys, thank you for everyone who reached out to me through social media, my friends, my family, you know. Thank you so much, because that helped me.
You had a couple of friends on social media. They sent you gifts.
They did. And I want to give a big shout out to those people. Like my boss, she's amazing. Like she always spoils me so much. And she takes good care of me, and it feels good to be appreciated as a coworker. And she's a great boss, and she sent me a care package, and it was the most sweetest thing ever. And
like
I'm getting emotional thinking about everything. But
you had like 2-3 other friends that sent you something.
Yes, I have a friend named Carly, and we were best friends growing up in our apartments when we were kids. Literally, like we were like 7 years old, and I don't really talk to them anymore. You know, it's just people that we have on social media that you knew once upon a lifetime. And in her heart, she sent me the cutest little box that had
what's that?
Box that had a flower and little flower pot in its little flower pot, and it was so cute, and it had such a lovely note in it, you know, and just to be thought of and actually be, you know, and I had friends that said, you know, I'm praying for you, I really am. Thank you for your prayers, because they worked and they helped me get through it. And
thank you guys.
Even through all that, guys, I know we had just made a video telling you guys that we were trying for baby number 3. I think that was another thing that I kept thinking about, like, what if I'm pregnant? You know, what if I get pregnant during this time? What happens then? You know, and we're still trying. Unfortunately, I have, like I said, fertility issues, and I've taken, I don't even know how many pregnancy tests already.
You only take probably like 3 a week.
And they've all been negative, so we're just gonna keep trying, and there's no rush. Like I said, I'm trying to get back on my feet, and now that COVID is lifting, everything's open 100%. The girls are out of school. Stefan is going back to work finally.
Yep.
And it's gonna change. Things are changing.
Then when you actually went back to the hospital and they told you didn't have COVID, when you tested negative, oh man, that was a big relief.
Oh yeah, we didn't tell you the happy ending, huh? Because we were so emotional over here. So then finally, when my 14-day quarantine was up, I still felt like no energy. I didn't feel bad, but I just felt like mentally not there and like no energy. And so basically, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get retested, guys. Got in my little car. I was like, okay, please, God, please. I don't want to have COVID anymore. I go and get tested, and they finally tell me that I don't have COVID anymore. I was so excited because it was the biggest.
I can finally sleep in my bed now.
Relief. Like when I told Stefan that, I was like, I'm gonna drive around. I'm gonna go get me some ice cream through the drive-thru. I was like, you clean the house, get everything disinfected so I can come home and shower, and we put everything in the wash. When I came home, he had washed my sheets, he had washed my covers, he had disinfected my room, the bathroom.
Girls' room around, cleaned our closets, everything. I wanted everything clean. No more COVID around Chun. So yeah, that was the best feeling ever when my baby tested negative. So man, I was happy. I was so happy. So,
but yes, that was nice. I was ready. Like, I can't tell y'all, like 14 days seemed like eternity.
It did. It was long.
Eternity. Eternity.
And but we did it. We got through it, man. Yeah. You know, God gave his best soldiers the toughest fights, the biggest battles, and you know, you wanted his soldiers. You got COVID. You beat it. You know. Shout out to all the other people that beat COVID and the ones that didn't make it, you know.
You're in a better place.
You're in a better place.
Because this hellhole we live in on earth is...
COVID was pretty tough when we had to experience it with you and my pops. So yeah, it was pretty tough there. So.
But with that being said, guys, stay tuned for our next video. And share, comment, like, subscribe if you haven't. Again, welcome to the channel if you're new.
Catching up with the Nelsons.
Keep catching up with us, guys, because we're going to keep catching up with y'all.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if that really made sense, but...
Well, it is. Catch up with them and catch up with us.
Catch up with us and we'll catch up with you.
Right.
All right, guys. I love you guys.
Peace.